So, good evening, everyone.
Good evening, ma.
Alright, so you're all welcome to today's class. Okay, so let's start with today's class. I believe we went as far as looking at cleanliness in last class. I'll just go through a review of what I said about cleanliness before we go to the next physical success criteria. Looking at which will be the last one in the set of the physical success criteria. So we did say that cleanliness is a state of being free from germs and death, and the habit is the habit of achieving or maintaining that state. We said that cleanliness achieved through cleaning, and that it contributes to other ideals or other what we can see as physical success criteria such as health and aesthetics, particularly in facilities management. It requires an ongoing procedure or set of habits that helps you to maintain and prevent problems and diseases. We also mentioned that cleanliness is indispensable, particularly in modern office workplaces, and that it contributes significantly to well-being. Okay? We also mentioned that cleanliness helps us prevent infections and pandemics and other problems that will emanate from health issues. We also said it helps us maintain the air quality within our building. So when clean, prevent dust, prevent all of the germs and molds that go from HVAC, which then lead to issues of infection and poor air quality. So on the practical level, we said do cleaning by washing with soap and tidying up and sweeping and removing dust, okay, and packing away dirt and lying and waste that are lying around. Okay, we also talked about how cleanliness is measured. In other words, we are looking at cleanliness as a critical success criteria, and we are now looking at measures for cleanliness. Okay, so measure of that physical success criteria, which is cleanliness. And we said we can do this. I listed 4 ways. That does not mean there are no others. In which 4 measures that you can apply for measuring cleanliness. And the first one I mentioned was appearance metric. And in this case, you look at the appearance of the facility to determine how clean it is. And to be able to do this, you have to do observation, or you take a walk through inspection of the facility to determine how clean it is, how free from dust that it is. Okay, and we did mention that one way you will determine how free from dust it is by wearing a white glove, okay, to swab the dust and see how dusty it is, or by using your fingers to draw X on the surface to also determine how clean it is. So apart from appearance metrics, we also mention customer satisfaction. Your customers can tell you through an occupant survey, how clean or how sanitized they are surrounding it, and how satisfied they are with the cleaning services of the cleaning service provider. Another way you can measure cleanliness is through physical metrics, and in this case, we are talking about financial metrics. You're looking at how reasonable, how valuable the cost of the cleaning is. Okay, so how does the value of the cleaning, how does it compare with the cost? How does the quality of the cleaning compare with the cost? And when you are looking at that, you are looking at physical metrics, and that can be measured on the basis of maybe cost of cleaning per employee, or cost of cleaning per floor space, or what have you. Okay. Then we have the fourth one, which is sanitizing metric. So in this case, you are looking at how hygienic and how sanitary, the whole facility. And you can also do this by doing a walkthrough of observation of the facilities to see how sanitary or how hygienic it is. So that is it again about cleanliness. Since that was the last physical process criteria we examined in the last class, and it appears we're having issues with the internet service, and I wasn't sure how far we actually went, so I decided to take cleaning all the way. From there, we're going to move on to illumination. That is the last physical process criteria that I want us to look at. That's not to say there are no others. I gave you several examples when we were looking at physical process criteria, and there are still some other examples that I did not mention. So, but these are the ones that I've chosen for us to examine in this class, the purpose of this course. So, illumination is the last one that we're looking at. And illumination is a deliberate use of light to achieve a practical or aesthetic effect. So when you say illumination, we're referring to that deliberate use of light or lighting to achieve a practical, when we say practical, that's functional effect or aesthetic effect. So illumination could have to do with just creating beauty with light, or it could have to do with achieving a functional purpose. For example, visibility. So lighting includes the use of both artificial light sources as well as natural light sources. So when you're talking about artificial light sources, you're looking at your lamps, looking at your fluorescent, looking at your LED bulbs, looking at all of these light fixtures. And when you're talking about natural illumination, you're looking at how you capture daylight. Okay, so proper lighting can enhance your task within your facility. Okay, there are some specific facility case where illumination is most important, particularly where work that involves sight largely is being carried out, like within our libraries, okay, where you need a lot of illumination, within our offices where you always need to type and write and do all of these things that require lighting. So, like we mentioned earlier, we can also use lighting to improve the aesthetic appearance of our facility, and you also use it to improve the psychological well-being of your occupants. So sometimes when there is lighting and there is a lot of aesthetic inclination from that lighting, it gives good psychological effect on the occupant. Indoor lighting is a key part of light fixtures, a key part of your indoor lighting, and you can use it to create aesthetics through the kind of interior design for lighting that you choose. Lighting can also be an intrinsic component of your landscaping project. So in some facilities, in their landscaping, you find lighting used largely to complement whatever design they have for their landscaping, and to also improve the aesthetics of such landscaping. Okay, daylighting. We have mentioned that natural lighting, you use your light fixtures such as your lamp, etc., to achieve that. In the case of daylighting, you use your windows, your skylight, or light shelves, or your light roofing to roofing material to achieve daylight. In some buildings, particularly during the daytime, buildings that are not offices or libraries where illumination is mostly important, they can achieve illumination as by just adopting daylight. So what we are saying invariably is that in some offices, daylighting constitutes the main source of illumination in buildings. At night time, they now put on all these artificial lighting. So the level of artificial illumination can be measured in what is called foot candle. Foot candle is often abbreviated as FT, small f, small c, and sometimes it is written as FT, small f, small c, dash c. And foot candle is a unit of light intensity and is widely used in the media, who often have to resort to lighting in their industry. Okay, you also use foot candle in measuring light intensity in horticulture, in our facilities, in lighting industry, and other areas. You also use them you find them often used in relation to engineering projects and building projects. So you will often find foot candle being referred to our building code, where they will be trying to establish the extent of illumination that we should have on the facility. So, food candle can be described as the extent of luminance cast on a surface by one candela source, which is located one away. So that's how they measure candle. The extent of luminance or light intensity. That's another word, another phrase for luminance. So food candle conveys or measures the level of the light intensity that is cast on a particular surface by one candela source that is located one foot away. That candela source is assumed to be placed in the middle of that 1 foot. So the kind of light that is casted, or the light intensity, or the luminance that is casted by that one candela source that is placed 1 foot away. So if you have a radius of a circle that is, half a foot, which means the diameter, the diameter is 2 feet, the radius is 1 foot. So the extent or the intensity of the light that is cast at the end or the circumference of the circle is what is measured as foot candle. Okay, so sometimes they use the word lux, okay, and that is also the typical unit of measurement of luminance in the lighting industry, and it is often taken that 1 foot candle is about 10 lux. So sometimes you find illumination being measured in lux, and you find these measurements being referred to often in our lighting industry. So anytime lux is being referred to, you should know that the relationship between lux, which is LUX, and your foot candle is that your foot candle is about 10 times your lux. Okay, so foot candle or lux can be measured with a light meter. Whenever you have a light meter, you put it at the source of the lighting, and then you can determine how many foot candles you measure or how many lux you measure. So like I mentioned earlier, lux is every 10 lux represents 1 candle. So you can interpret them to each other. Candela is in those days taken as if you have 1 candle seated in the middle of the sphere that has 1 radius. And when you now look at the light casted as the circumference of that sphere, then you can that is 1 candle. So that's the way you measure is that candela will be casting uniform lighting at the circumference of that sphere, because it is taken from like the uniform point, which is in the middle, the exact center of the sphere that we're talking about. So that is what illumination is, and that is how it's measured. Okay? are the critical success criteria that wanted to look at. That is what they are. Those are their features, and their measures is what we have already examined. So some of them can be interpreted simply as measures. Some can be interpreted as key performance indicators. For example, your foot candle, your stock, your lumen, all of them are their key performance indicators. Okay, issues like measures like humidity can also measure key performance indicators. Looking at measuring the percentage of the humidity. Okay, so you need to bear this in mind. When you are looking at cleanliness and you are using that financial metric, fiscal metric, then you can also interpret that into key performance indicators in terms of, how costly it is to clean the facility by employee, or how costly it is to clean the facility per floor space, or how expensive it is to clean the facility per net floor space, per gross floor space. All of these are key performance indicators. So if you say it must not be more than 5,000 clean, the facility per meter square on a monthly basis, then that is a key performance indicator. So all you need to do is go and measure whether or not the cleaning is kept within 5,000 per meter square or more. Okay, but that will be for an agreed level of cleaning. Okay, so these are kind of things we're talking about. If you say whenever there is a spill, the spill should be cleaned up. Okay, maybe somebody at the train station mistakenly dropped a cup of coffee or a cup of tea on the floor. Okay, you will have key performance indicators for cleanliness around that kind of service that will say that every spill must be cleaned up within 5 minutes or within 10 minutes. So there will be somebody around monitoring to see whether or not that whenever they spill, it's cleaned up within 10 minutes. It's cleaned up within 10 minutes. We take in that person has performed on that particular occasion, and you count how many times the service provider performs within a given time that you have agreed to always do your calculation of the key performance indicator. That could be on a weekly basis, on a fortnightly basis, or on a monthly basis. So if you had to bill 50 times within the agreed time, which is 1 month, you will now indicate as a monitor how many times those those bills were addressed before 10 minutes. Maybe it is 40 times out of the 50 times there will be bill. That will be 80% performance. And that will help you to determine whether or not you are going to remove from the payment that is due to your service provider, or whether you are going to increase the payment and reward him to continue to encourage house performance, particularly if you are using a carrot and stick approach to applying findings of your performance measurement. Okay, so this is what we are talking about. equally be interpreted as KPIs. So you now go and measure performance or the intent to reach the next KPI, and that will enable you to get the feedback as to whether or not some things have to be addressed that are not being properly made in terms of performance, or whether you are going to penalize the service provider, or you're going to reward your service provider using the and carrot approach. In the use of the stick and carrot approach, I can't remember whether or not we have looked at it extensively, but we must remember that when we are applying, we must always make sure that the work performance is the one that achieves the penalty, that the penalty does not become too low, that it does not mean anything or inconvenience to clean up. In the case of reward too, you don't reward everybody, you reward the top performer. That way, you can also, the reward can feel substantial enough to convince the person always perform better, and for those who are not doing as well, for them to regulate that so that they can also get the reward. You must also make sure that the reward is substantial, because if the reward is inconsequential, it's not to convince them enough to perform well. If the consequences of non-performance is also not significant or non-consequential, then they also will not feel the pain or the inconvenience of the consequence. Taking, service provider, and we are doing an analogy of a donkey, where what they will carry, and that will encourage them to perform even better in the carrying of maybe luggage, for example. Whereas perform better. So anytime there are consequences for non-performance for our service provider, it's taken as if they are giving them the cake. Okay? And anytime we reward them for very good performance or bad performance, then it's taken like we are giving them the carrot. When we're looking at feedback from our performance evaluation. So we talked about how we will use our success criteria to analyze our, physical success factors, and how we can interpret the key performance indicators and measures, and we explain what our key performance indicators are. We also explain what our measures of performance are, and we now decided to take some examples of physical success criteria and then look at what they are, what they measure, and how we can the type of measures that we can use to measure them, or the type of key performance indicators that we can use to measure them. So this is how far we have gone in looking at the practical application of performance evaluation. Okay. Let us move now quickly to characteristics of a good performance measure. So if your performance measure or key performance indicators are good, how do you do it?
your mic.
Hello, students.
Hello, ma.
Thank you. I sent a message to your class rep that will take a short break, but I don't think he saw it. So, you're all welcome back. Anyway, class rep, please, by 8:40, take the attendance for this session, so that it will be part of what you send to me after the class. And remember to start recording this session. So I was asking you a question.
Recording has been granted for the session, and at 8:40 I'll take the attendance.
And where did I become inaudible last class? Because I did not know the exact point when the service went off. So what was the last thing I was saying? You remember, class rep? I know the characteristics. How far did we go with it? Anybody? Kiwa? Jao Kiwa? Play.
We're trying to ask how performance measures
Yes, but I started talking about that. So I wanted to know which attributes were on before I became Please, can somebody else give us an indication of where we were? Because I've said a lot about the attributes. Anybody else? Have we talked about reflection of customer needs, provision of basis for decision making?
Excuse me, ma'am. Good evening, ma'am. I think our time run out before, maybe because there I think we stop at the illumination that you explained that, so I don't think we've done. You were only introducing how to know. So you've not actually listed anything for us, but you're only doing a prayer for us.
Well, I've said a lot too, so I don't think we can go back to all of those things that I said. So I will not mention two of the attributes that I have mentioned, discussed, so that you can go and look it up on your own, and then I'll continue. So I said the performance measures must have the following attributes. And next time, class rep, please, if I become inaudible, call me quickly so that I know, instead of continuing to teach the class supposedly and I'm just talking into the air. So please, make sure you do that next time. Because I've been having a class since 5. I've been speaking, so I don't want to be repeating myself unnecessarily. So I've mentioned reflection of customers' needs. Your good performance evaluation measures or KPIs must reflect the precise need of the customer. And I said the best way to do that, to ensure that it meets that need, is to look at your your mission statement, the mission statement of the organization, and the mission statement of the department of FM as coined from that of the organization, and identifying the critical success factors there, and setting out the critical success criteria that we use to measure the CSF, and then interpreting your critical success criteria into measures and key performance indicators. That way, you can make sure that your measures are relevant or they reflect the needs of the customers. I also mentioned that they must provide basis for good decision making. Another attribute, in other words, is that your measures must provide good basis for decision making. And quickly, as a summary, what I said there is that whether it's a KPI or it's a measure, it must give you enough information or data that will help you in your decision making. For example, if you want to adopt your carrot and stick approach to payments, your KPI should be able to tell you whether the performance has been 80% over the agreed evaluation period, or whether it's 90%, or whether it's 40%. It should be enough to help you make a decision whether you need to send the service provider away and get another service provider, or maybe you just need to talk to them or give them consequences of poor performance so that their performance should help you to indicate the areas that you should focus better and the areas that just take things easy with. So you must provide basis for good decision making. Another attribute that I was talking about is that it should be easily understood, and it's at that point that I realized that the connection is no longer available. So your measure or KPI must be easily understood. And I gave the example that if we say the toilet floor must be clean and dry and tidy within the hours of 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. Perhaps these are the hours when the office is opened and your fans are there using the office. So I think that is easily understood sufficiently. You all know that the floor should be clean, it should be tidy, it should be dry in the toilet, and it should be any time that you go and inspect within the hours of the 8 and the 5 p.m. So if you say the toilet should be clean generally and there are no specifics, it may not be easily understood, and that way it will be more difficult to measure performance. Because when you say it should be clean, what do you mean by it should be clean? What is clean to somebody may not be clean at all to me, and what is extremely clean to somebody may just be averagely clean to me. So it must be easy understand. It should be broadly applicable. Your KPIs or your measures should not be those that can only be applied to maybe, one specific formation of your facilities or one small aspect of your facility. Okay, it should be broadly applicable, not only within your facility, but even among the facilities of your peers. So it's important that it's broadly applicable. Otherwise, if it's not broadly applicable, it may mean that only specialists can apply them. Okay? That will make them more expensive to apply, make it more difficult to apply, such that people will not apply them as frequently, and that will mean that your performance evaluation will not be carried out as regularly as it should if the KPIs or measures of performance are not broadly applicable. Another thing is it should be easily applicable. One, broadly applicable, which means it should be quite, general and applicable to a lot of things. The other one is that it should be easily applicable, and the consequences of both are very similar. If it is not broadly applicable, it may mean it has to be applied by specialists. If it is not easily applicable, it may also mean that it has to be applied by specialists, and that will make it quite expensive to apply, and that will discourage performance evaluation and will take away all the benefits that can emanate from this evaluation. Another attribute is that it should be uniform and precise in interpretation. Okay, taking our toilet floor cleaning example again, we can all see how precise it is. We said clean, tidy, dry. Okay, so clean, which means we don't expect litters, we don't expect any form of dirt to be on the floor. Okay, we don't expect it to be wet. Okay, so it is one thing for it to be free of litter, it's another thing to be wet. If it's wet, you still have not met the KPI. So we said it should be dry. And thirdly, he gave a timing. Okay, so that makes it very precise. And when we're talking about preciseness, we're talking about it being, measurable, time bound, okay, and accurate, okay, to measure. So we gave the hours of 5 we gave the hours of 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. in the evening, which are the opening hours for that week. So let's take another one that is not as precise in interpretation, so that we can understand better what we're talking about here. You have, for example, the KPI that says that the toilet must be cleaned 3 times every day. 3 times every day. Okay? And you didn't give the hours or the time that it should be cleaned. Okay? So, and the cleaner says he sat down at the hours of say 2 p.m. When you went for inspection, you found out that the whole place is dirty and was not cleaned, and your KPI, your only KPI for measuring cleanliness of that toilet is that it must be cleaned 3 times a day. And you now, interrogated your service provider that why is this place dirty? and he says, well, I've met the KPI. What's the KPI? The KPI is that you should be clean 3 times a day. And I've cleaned it 3 times a day. I cleaned it at 8 a.m., I cleaned it at 10 a.m., and I cleaned it at 12 a.m. Okay? So, you see how unprecise in interpretation that KPI is. Because you told him 3 times a day. You didn't give him specific times when he has to clean it. So, he can say that within 4 hours, he has cleaned the toilet 3 times in a day. Whereas you are continuing to use the toilet up to maybe 5 p.m. in the evening. So it means that between 12 and 5, that toilet will remain dirty. And the reason is that your KPI was not precise enough in interpretation. So, you know, it means your provider is not performing well or meeting your needs. Okay? Another important attribute is that it should be economic. Economic means it should not be expensive measure. Okay? So whatever KPIs you are using or whatever measure performance you are adopting, must make sure. Hello? Class rep.
Hello, we can see hear you. However, I would just like to quickly announce that I'm booked for another meeting because of the time lost. So I've sent it to everybody's WhatsApp. Thank you.
Okay, alright. See what we can. Alright.
Can you hear?
As soon as I become unaudible on this class, let me know that I'm just not okay. Maybe you give me a call immediately. That's clear. Alright.
Clear.
So I was talking about another attribute of being economical, which means not the expensive measure. Okay, and that is self-explanatory. And the last but not the least attribute that we are looking at is that it should align with the company's goals or objectives. Your KPIs or measures must align with the company's goals, objectives. Otherwise, you will not be meeting performance, or you will not be identifying the real status of performance of your services, and you know that could discourage your clients from continuing with you as the service provider. So you must make sure that whatever measures of performance you are using or KPIs, that they align with the goals and objectives of the organization. That's the only way to make sure that you are performing sufficiently to enhance their productivity as users or buyers. And that means that last attribute is likely related to the first attribute, where we said it must reflect customers' needs. Okay, so those are the attributes. They are not all exhaustive. There might still be 1 or 2 attributes here and there that good performance measures must have, but this gives us an idea of what we should be looking at. Okay, so am I still audible, class rep? Because I want to take questions and go to the next.
Hello.
I'm no longer audible.
Wow.
Hello. Hello.
We can hear you, ma.
You can hear me? Okay, alright. Okay. Okay, so do we have any questions on what we have touched so far? Because I want us to take the last aspect of performance evaluation, which is just a short aspect. Any question or questions? Can you show with a raise of hand so that I can call you? I hope attendance has been taken again, class rep. Please, with a quick show of hands, let us know whether you have a question or question. Class rep, please take attendance, like I said.
I've taken attendance at
Okay.
8:43.
Alright, so okay. So I believe we don't have any further questions. So as I can't see anybody indicating, so the last thing that I want you to learn in
Yes, you are audible right now.
I was actually asking whether anybody has a question. When it hears there was none, I was just saying that the last part of performance evaluation issues in its application that I wanted us to touch before we end that topic and the next topic. And I mentioned that we wanted us to look at the issue of change management and continuous improvement in performance evaluation. So, performance evaluation is not all about just measuring performance, using all of those things that we have taught ourselves, right from how to view the mission statement of the organization and develop our own mission statement for our effective department, that leading on to identifying the critical success factors in that mission statement and building or identifying our critical success criteria, which is what we use to measure our critical success factors from the critical success factor, and then going on from there to interpret these critical success criteria into measures of performance and key performance indicators, and then applying them in our measures and coming up with some information or feedback from that measure. So our performance evaluation will not end or will not lead to a crucial or benefit, will not create benefit until we move on from that evaluation stage to change management and continuous improvement stage. And this is the stage in that performance evaluation where we go back and feed back every information that we obtain from our performance evaluation exercise into the next stage or the next planning. Okay, so you find out that some aspects of your activities are not being performed optimally, maybe because the users rated them poorly, or you carried out a walkthrough, evaluation and found out that you're not doing well in those areas, or you carried out ratio analysis and found out that you've become very expensive and in giving poor value in some aspect of your responsibilities, until you now take all of this information and use it to improve performance of these facilities, of these services. Then your performance evaluation is just a process in utility. So you must make sure that the findings of your performance evaluation always goes back to the next planning stage, where again you're going to end up designing appropriate critical success factors and critical success criteria, as well as important measures of performance. So you can also redistribute your resources to focus more on those areas that appear like you are not doing well, okay, and take away resources from areas that you are doing exceptionally well in but are not so required by your staff. Okafor, please mute yourself or leave the class, please. Mute yourself, leave the class. You are interfering with the class. Okay, so, like we're saying, the change management and continuous improvement stage should be the last stage of every performance evaluation process. Although we say it's the last, but performance evaluation itself is a cyclical process, which means that every time you come to this, to the end of your performance evaluation, you also have to bring in this change management and continuous improvement stage and go and feed back, your findings into this stage, so that that stage will now also influence the next stage, where you identify your critical success factors. So at this stage, service monitoring will be done to determine the standards that have been met using the indicators, and to also determine the standards that have not been met using the indicators. Your measures and the evaluation you've done with them will also indicate cases of failure, and it will also identify where there is a need to do payment deductions to discourage such failures in future, and where to give incentive to continue to encourage outperformance. This again is the carrot and stick approach. So this carrot and stick approach you apply at this change management and continuous improvement stage. I hope that is clear to all of us. I won't say much again about the carrot and cane scenario, because we've said so much about it already earlier, trying to explain what we mean by the approach and why the analogy of carrot and cane, or carrot and stick, is used. But in most instances, it's an absolute must in every performance evaluation process to discourage non-performance and to encourage good performance. So it is an aspect of the change management and continuous improvement stage of performance management. Where there are continuing underperformance, you identify the reason from your performance evaluation data or information, and you feed this back into the process loop through that performance loop that we mentioned, that makes it a cyclical process. It will be sometimes some of the reasons that you identify for underperformance could be that the resources you have provided are insufficient to expect the kind of performance that is required from you as service providers. It could be that the indicators you have used previously are unrealistic. It could be that staff are not performing sufficiently. It could be that the service providers, if they are outsourced service providers, do not have sufficient experience or skill to carry out, the quality of service that you are requiring, in which case you may have to start looking for somebody else. Okay? When there are indoor providers, in-house service staff, you may look for what to do with them in terms of incentives and consequences to encourage them to do better. You may have to remove or sack some of them if there are repeated non-performance, and after warning and all sorts of encouragement, if they refuse to perform, you may have to remove some of the services of some of them. All of these are steps you take to change management and continuous improvement. Also, you will identify some new areas of performance where you could create indicators for that you are using currently. Okay, so some important KPIs or measures that you should have used but you are not using. You should be able to identify them from the information you have and then create such relevant KPIs or measures for the next process of performance evaluation. You might also identify that there are some you use, but they are less relevant. So you will remove them in the next process of performance management. All of these are things you do at the change management and continuous improvement stage. All of these things that you also identify at this stage will guide strategic decision making, and invariably that will improve your planning stage of the duties that you need to perform, who to allot responsibilities to, what tactics you should use in your operations, and how to measure your operations. So all of these things, you will get information from your evaluation that will help you to improve your strategic plan for the next stage. And when this happens, this process will help to now improve the general performance of your facility while making sure that you continue to improve. It's one thing to do well, it's another thing to continue to improve. Okay, so you must always do this stage so that you can not only continue to do well, but also continue to improve in your performance. And that way, okay, your organization as a facility management organization will grow faster than that of your competitors, and your customers will continue to be loyal to you, okay, so that they will continue to demand for your services. So all these are what you should do in typical performance evaluation exercise to ensure that such processes help you to improve your performance and continue to improve and meet the needs of your service provider. So any question or questions on these applied aspects of performance evaluation? Okay, I'll take maybe 1 or 2 questions, and we'll introduce the next topic to them. So, Franklin, you have a
My good evening, ma'am.
evening.
I just wanted to confirm
Driver,
this KPI and performance evaluation might be sounding vague to some of us. Can't we see something like a template or an example to various parameters?
give you an example. We looked at KPIs and we looked at methods of performance, and I gave them a class and sounded vague. Then if you know the issue our class or salt good. I gave you examples, several examples, and I explained to you why we say that KPIs have magnitude, that they have units, and they have all of these things. I took examples to do that. So I don't know who is saying no. Can other class members corroborate that?
Huh?
I said I gave you examples, and we took the examples in details. And I'm saying other class members should corroborate that. Maybe you were the class when that was dealt with. Hello, class rep.
I'm with you, ma'am.
Do you corroborate the statement that we took several examples of KPIs?
Yes, we did. Actually, maybe it was not in class at that time.
Thank you
So we
very
have
much.
putting of that.
So Franklin, if it is appearing vague to you, consult your class members and go on Google and go and search for key performance indicators for facilities and measures of performance and understand better. I can't confide you, particularly when you decide not to come to class. Okay?
Maybe it's when I went for my PROF.
For your
And I
what?
took permission. Maybe it was when I traveled and I took permission from the classroom.
You took permission from me or the class rep. It's the class rep that will give permission to wait. How reasonable does that sound? It's the class rep that will give you permission to be away. And when you're away, in the first place, you should know that you have things to catch up with. So ideally, you should approach those that were in class and then ask them so that they can give you. I even went as far as to explain to you how you apply, measures of performance using scale, and how you apply KPIs using, specified measures. And I gave several examples of KPIs. So if you are not careful, that will be an explicit question in your exams. Because you really need to understand it. So everybody should go back and go and read it well. I can't continue to spoon feed you. You know all these things and you know how to get information. You are adult students. So if I go out of my way to be, so explicit in all of these things, the least you can do is to do your own bits and learn a bit more. And if you know that you miss the class, and you know that I'm always very explicit in my class, then you go back to your peers and find out from them what we have covered. Okay? So, but to be gracious to the class, I will take a few examples of typical KPIs, and then we will just wait till the next class before we introduce the next topic. So you are taking us back. So, one example of the KPI is the grass must be cut between 25-50 millimeters at all times. The grass must be kept at the height of between 25 and 50 millimeters at all times. That's a KPI. You know, it has given you what is being measured, height as height of the grass, okay, the height on which, within which the grass must be kept for the lawn mower or the gardener who is mowing the lawn. Okay, and so that's what is being measured, the height of the grass. Okay, that is the service that is required. It must be kept within a satisfactory height. And what's that satisfactory height? They said 25 to 50 millimeters at all times. So if a monitor goes round to measure the height of the grass in the compound, and 20% of times or 50% of times the height is not within what is required, then that is a failure. All those times will be regarded as failure times. Okay, I also gave you one, even in the course of this lecture today, where I said every spill in the train station must be addressed within 10 minutes. That's a KPI. Okay, that's a KPI. So I gave you another one and said, you know, the floors of the toilets must be kept clean, tidy, and dry within all hours between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. in the evening when the occupants leave the facility. All these are KPIs. Okay, and another one on illumination, I could say illumination in the library must be kept at 75 foot candles during operating hours. So the operating hours maybe is 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Maybe the library opens at 8 and then it closes at 6 in the evening. So I say illumination in the library must be maintained at 75 foot candles during the hours of 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. on Mondays to Fridays. Maybe the libraries don't open on Saturdays and Sundays. That's a good KPI. It has given you magnitude and it has given you units. The unit is foot candles. The magnitude is 75. It has also told you what is being measured, illumination. Told you where it is being measured, library. It told you what hours, at what times it's going to be measured. So it's not only is it a good KPI, it's also precise. Okay? Another example is humidity in the printing press must be kept at 50% plus or minus 5 between the hours of 8 and 20 hours, which is 8 o'clock in the night, when printing process is in production. Okay, that is another KPI. If it is measures, you just say rate the quality of illumination in the library on how satisfactory it is using a scale of 1 to 5. So you see how non-precise measures are compared to API that gives specific quantities. Okay, in this case, you are measuring perception of illumination. So you say they should tell you how satisfactory they are with the illumination rate. Or you say they should rate the quality of illumination on how good or bad it is, using a scale of 1 to 5. 1 is, very poor. 2 is poor. 3 is average quality illumination. 4 is good quality illumination. And 5 is very good quality. Okay? We have a scale of 1 to 7. So when they rate it, you now calculate the average of the scores on that scale. Okay, on a scale of 1 to 5, a lot of people will take 3.5 as good performance, relatively good performance, because it's between average and good performance. Some people will insist on a score of 4, that you must score 4 out of 5. That is good before you can say performance. And anything less than 4 is area of concern. Anything more than 4 is good enough. Okay? So I've also told you in this example how you can measure, your KPIs, and how you can measure your measures of performance if you are using ESAC, your performance evaluation. Okay? Franklin.
Thank you.
Alright. So all of these we have mentioned before in that class where you supposedly missed. It was good for you that I'm in the mood to go through it again. And I hope a few other class members too that were absent, or even those that were present, have had the opportunity to learn a bit more about it. So in the next class, I'm assuming that there are no other questions. In the next class, we'll be looking at environmental issues in facilities management performance evaluation. Environmental issues in facilities management performance evaluation. I'm mentioning that topic for the purpose of those of you who would like to prepare for the class beforehand so that it's easier for them to understand what we are tackling. So under this area, we're looking at what are those environmental sustainability issues that we should understand as facility managers, and what should we be providing to improve our performance in these areas, and what kind of things, or what ways can we measure our performance in those areas. So all of those things are what we'll be looking at under that topic. So we'll be looking at things like greenhouse gases, green buildings, green buildings, carbon emission reduction, and how to reduce carbon emission. We're looking at energy consumption management and control through energy conservation and energy efficiency. So if you want to look at all those topics, that is what you should be looking into, so that it's easier for you to understand in the next class. We'll also look at some important terminologies, which will also be one of critical success criteria under environmental performance, such as body energy, carbon footprint, carbon rating, etc., etc. So, let's call it a night and a successful day. I'm also using this opportunity to wish you a happy celebration, and the next class, by the grace of God, will start by looking at those issues. Then we look at benchmarking, and that will bring us to the end of the course. Oluwaseun, I can see your hand raised. You want to say something?
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, ma'am. Sorry for using this channel, ma'am. Like, it's not about, my question is not about my course, but just but I actually sent you a very much to I want to show you that this is concerning my audience.
Well, I'm not sure I saw it, and if I did, if it came in, I probably have not looked at it. So, yeah. Alright.
Okay, ma'am. Very much, ma'am. I'm with you,
Yeah,
ma'am.
Owobu
Good evening, ma.
is raising up his hand. Good evening.
Yes, ma. Sorry, I wanted to ask, if it's possible for us to get an outline of the topic, since we don't have a single material that we can reference. Maybe if we have the topics that we are taking fairly
How far, yes, I did that at the beginning of the class now.
I don't have it, ma. I don't know if I missed it or
Have it, consult your classmates now.
Okay, ma.
You should have it, because if we had a class and we took these things and you are not present, then how is that my fault?
I've actually not mixed any
You
of
should
the
know that you should catch up with what we have missed from the class members.
No problem.
I normally always give the course content at the beginning of my classes.
Okay,
So
ma.
I did that, and I left Professor Mirin's side for her to expand on, although I did mention what she will be looking at as well, and expanded on my part.
Okay, ma.
Okay? When you miss classes and you don't have those information, consult your classmates and get it from them. You are not supposed to miss classes. So when you do, catch up by talking to them so that you know what you have missed. That's the responsible thing to do. However, I've taken that into cognizance. I will try to do a snapshot of what the course content is. Unfortunately, I've littered my course content all over, and I can't. We can. Am I still audible?
Yes, you are still audible, ma'am. Although you broke, there was a break, but you are back.
So I was having a call coming. So I will look at what I. It's a bit linked with some of my comments, to help me in assessing the course content, but it will still give you some things. So, but ask from your classmates what is the course content. The other thing I wanted to talk about is how far with your performance and with your facilities management, facilities economics textbook, the e-book that you all paid for, how far with it? How many of you have received it? I asked about these 2 classes ago, and none of you deemed it necessary to give me a feedback up till now. That's a shame. And you're now saying you don't have anything to consult with. So does anybody have a response to that? Hello?
Hello, ma. I can hear you, ma.
Yes, what's your response to that?
Ma, I have not been able to access the book, ma. I've not been able to access it.
Did you receive a passport?
I did not, ma. I did not.
Okay. Can other members of class talk to that? Please mute them so that others can talk. You got the book. Okay, who is speaking now? That's Sheung.
Yeah, sure, man. Yes.
Okay, can we quickly, by a show of hands, so one of us has gotten, so it must mean that others, that it has gone to their email addresses, and they have not checked.
Hello, ma.
Please, go and check your email addresses and check your spam. I don't see spam messages. I don't see how they can send to a few and not send to others, because we paid for all.
Hello, ma. Please, can you hear me, ma?
Yes, who is speaking? Is that Rojaye?
Yes, ma. Good evening, ma.
Yes, good evening.
Okay, ma. To be honest, my true opinion about this is that I think from the last conversation that we had with the class, I'm not sure because we went on a very long break, and I'm not sure that we even remember we paid for an ebook. So when you brought it up that day, a lot of us were a bit confused about did we pay for an ebook or we didn't pay for an ebook.